Good afternoon everybody and welcome to Penguin Point. How's everyone's day going today? Good? Yes? Well, if you haven't had the best of days, I can tell you guys that your day's going to get that much better because now you've arrived here. And my name's Monique and I'm going to be telling you a little bit about these beautiful creatures that you see before you, the little blue penguins.
Oh, that's cool.
So you're probably wondering what I'm holding in my hand and why it's appropriate for Penguin Point. Well guys, we have some really annoying seagulls which aren't exhibiting their natural behaviour, which is actually scavenging behaviour. We all know when we're eating our fish and chips down at the beach, we all get hassled by them. Now it's not their fault, that's their natural behaviour, but we don't want them hassling our little blue penguins. So they can actually hassle the birds until they're actually big enough to take their food. So we just don't want that kind of behaviour. And for the health of our birds, the most humane way we can keep seagulls away is by using the jet spraying hose. So any of you that don't have waterproof mobile phones or waterproof cameras, I'd say just be a little bit careful because there are moments of chaos here where I might not be very good at my spraying technique. So I might actually get some of you. And if that's the case, I do apologise in advance. I'm really sorry. But that's a souvenir of your experience of visiting us here at Penguin Point. So guys, the little blue penguins are the smallest of the 17 penguin species found worldwide out of the 17 penguin species. All penguin species too are found in the southern hemisphere of our planet, which I think is a pretty interesting fact. These guys, the little blue penguins, are the only penguins found here in Australia. So it makes them quite special and really unique to us here at Seaworld. So they're found all on the southern coast of Australia, from Fremantle in Western Australia. They're found as far north as northern New South Wales, on the east coast side. Now there's also a population found in Tasmania and also on another country in New Zealand. So they're actually considered a subspecies in New Zealand, and that's because they actually are genetically distinct. They have no females or males from the New Zealand population coming over to Australia and breeding with our males and females here. So they've actually had a genetic split and they're actually considered a subspecies now. It'd be pretty cool to be around for the next 500 years and see if the penguins in Australia or in New Zealand look very different to the ones in Australia now that you can see due to maybe some kind of environmental factors that might change how they look or how they hunt or feed. So that's pretty cool, that's evolution happening in real time. Now these guys, little blue penguins here at Penguin Point, we have about 30 little blue penguins and we've been very lucky to have successful parents this year. We've actually had 3 chicks that were born here at Penguin Point, so we're very overjoyed and very excited to be part of this experience to see the generations coming through here. The penguins here all have these little tags that are on their flippers. Now these coloured tags aren't for decoration, they're actually to help us identify individuals, so kind of like a name tag. Do you remember on your first day of school or when you're going to work and you have to get to know everybody and you wear that name badge? Well, it's the same for these guys. We need to have individual name tags, I guess, for us to identify them. So a tag on the right wing indicates a male and a tag on the left wing indicates a female. So you guys can actually have your own interactive experience and check on out who's passing you by over there, and you can actually see if it's a male or female, like which wing that tag is on. That's pretty cool. Now the different colours actually correspond to the years that they were born. Our youngest adults, now that we've had the chicks, I can't use our youngest here. Chicks don't actually have any tags on and they're not actually on exhibit at the moment. They're actually learning to hand feed and how to swim in another area of the park at the moment. But our youngest adults are actually Chip and Dale. See if I can find them for you. Maybe you'll be able to find them for me. Chip's got a white patch on the back. So he's got a dark green tag on the right wing and a white patch on his back. So I can't actually see him right now. That might be him over here on the edge. And his brother Dale, and they actually recently arrived about 7 months ago from Sydney Aquarium. And they're doing extremely well settling in here. But Chip's really easy to spot. If you do see him, it's kind of like a chip off his back. So they do have individual features, physical features, and also individual behaviours, which you've got to be careful not to give animals, I guess, too many human characteristics or personality traits, but it's really hard as being part of the animal care team, coming in here each day and to not see these individual behaviours and say, oh hey, that's Parker, or oh, that's Chip over there. So they do have individual kind of behaviours, which makes it really easy to pick them out, even when they're missing their tags. So little Parker, he's really easy to spot. He's actually got a twisted beak. He's actually got no tags on at the moment, but he absolutely loves being fed at the tray, and he also loves hanging out in the meadows over there. So that's his kind of personalities, individual behaviours that he does. You probably can see he's shaking at the moment, and you probably all know right now that it's not too cold. It's actually quite warm today, a little bit muggy. So he's not cold. He's actually shaking just to boost. So by shaking the muscles, by vibrating those muscles, they actually boost their metabolism, so that way they can break down their food and get the amount of energy that they need and the nutrients out of that food. So if you check out, you see all these little shaking penguins over here. They're not cold and they're not doing a little jiggy-jig dance for you. They're actually boosting their metabolism as we speak here. So it's pretty cool. They look like they're wiggling their booties over there, their little tails. You also check on out while they're over there too, that some of them might be preening when they're popped out of the water. Now, what they're doing when they're preening, you'll see them like wipe, you can just see, I don't know who that is, there might be Einstein. You see them wiping their head on the side of their body. Now, they're just trying to spread an oily substance that's secreted from the base of their tail, from the uropigal gland. And that actually keeps their outer layer of feathers nice and waterproof. So protected from, I guess, those inner downy fluffy layer of feathers from getting wet. And they need to keep those fluffy downy layer of feathers, which are closer to their body, nice and dry so that they can keep their body temperature regulated. So that they, especially when they're diving at depths of about 70 meters, and they'll be doing that on one breath hold of 60 seconds. It's absolutely unbelievable. You can imagine the deeper they dive in the ocean, it gets a lot darker and colder. So they need to be able to keep those vital organs pumping and working, so their heart and also their muscles, so they can hunt for that prey efficiently underwater. So they need to keep those organs warm and functioning well. So those waterproof feathers act as like a dry suit for the body. They're extremely important for their survival in the marine environment. Animals that don't have feathers or fur that live in the marine environment, for example dolphins or whales, they actually have a thick layer of blubber to keep them warm. Now, the only penguins that have blubber are those ice penguins that you would have seen at the front of the park. I don't know if any of you have seen them. They're the second largest species, the king penguins, and the third largest are the Gen 2 penguins. And they look very fat and rotunda. They have actually a thick layer of blubber inside of their body to keep their body extra warm in that colder subantarctic climate. In the case of the little blue penguins, they don't need that blubber layer because they're actually in the, I guess, the warmer climate of Australia. This is little Einstein pottering on past me, so he's been a recent father. Einstein and Gizmo recently had a chick who's yet to be named, but really cool to see. Gizmo's actually been born and bred here at Penguin Point. I don't know if I can see her right now. I think she might be in the water, Catherine's saying. Did you see her in the water, did you? I haven't seen Gizmo yet. If I do see her, I'll point her out to you guys. But she's actually she's the granddaughter of Guffy, who's our oldest penguin here. And Guffy's recently become the great-grandmother of Penguin Point, because Gizmo and Einstein have both had a chick together. So it's really cool to see this generation. I even get confused trying to remember the great-grandmothers and great-great-granddaughters here. So it's really cool to see these generations coming through. Now you might notice too, a lot of our penguins, some of them are looking really brown and patchy, and some of them are looking really nice, really sleek and beautiful. And I think Hamish is one of the culprits over there. You can see he's looking very blue, very shiny and white. So he's actually recently undergone a process that's called molting. So that's where they lose all of their feathers, and they'll lose them all at the end of the breeding season. So the breeding season for these guys is from July to March each year. So it's a really long breeding time. We've probably now headed to the end of it. We've had all the chicks grow up now, and hopefully they'll be starting breeding again in March next year. But Hamish has been undergone an early molt. So what happens is they go out and they'll actually, in the wild especially, they'll hunt and they'll put on extra weight. They need to build up those fat stores. They'll do the same here at Penguin Point. We'll actually see them increase their food drive. And they'll put on that weight and they'll go and hide in their burrow for 2 weeks while they lose 10,000 feathers. So it's unbelievable the amount of feathers they have to lose, and you can imagine it's really physiologically demanding. It's really tiring and it's a stressful process for them. But when they come out, they look a lot like Hamish over there. With these wonderful kind of dark blue feathers on the top and that very white crisp underlayer. So they look really incredible. All these other guys, you can see that some of them are looking a little bit patchy. They're all about to undergo their molts. So they're looking a little bit brown patchy. They're going to lose all those feathers. Now, Penguin Point's a little bit different to the wild. We don't have any predators here, lucky for them. So these guys will still come out during their molting time and actually eat. And they'll also swim as well. So you can imagine in the wild, like I said to you before, those waterproof layer feathers are really important. During that molting time, they actually lose them. So they can't keep the body regulated, the temperature regulated. They can't keep the body warm. So in the wild, you'll never see a penguin out hunting and feeding while they're molting. They could actually die from hypothermia, so from freezing. And this is also a point to make when we think about oil spills. Big oil spills from a tanker or an oil rig exploding. Now, a lot of birds you'll see always covered in all that oil, and a lot of people always think that these birds actually die from eating the oil, from ingesting the oil when they're trying to preen themselves. Now, they actually die more likely from the cause of hypothermia, so they actually freeze, and that's because a lot of the marine birds lose their ability to keep those feathers waterproof. So you can imagine oil and water doesn't mix. Once that oil soaks down through the outer layer of feathers down to the fluffy downy layer of feathers, they actually lose their function of that dry suit. So they can't keep their body warm anymore. So a lot of animals do, especially birds, actually die from the complications of freezing and not of ingesting that oil. So on the topic of predators before, can any of you guys guess the 3 main natural predators of the little blue penguin? Yeah?
Seals?
Yeah, sorry, I was asking this front guy as well. Yeah, seals. Okay, well both of you are on the same token there. So seals, sea lions and leopard seals. 2 others are their main natural predators. One's big black and white. Killer whales, wonderful. Not many people guess that one, so it's a really good guess. So orcas or killer whales, they're actually a dolphin species. One more, they're actually here at the park, and people tend to be really scared of them, but we don't really need to be. Sharks, I heard over there, yep, correct. So sharks are the other natural predators of the little blue penguin. But what's their greatest indirect predator? What animal on our planet doesn't actually eat the little blue penguin, but has the greatest impact on their survival? Humans? I think I heard a few people say yeah. So unfortunately guys, we do have the greatest negative impact on their survival. Do any of you know how we impact them? So overfishing, that's correct. So fishing, overfishing. A very good point. Being part of animal care, a lot of our stranded animals we take care of. Very lucky to be part of that. But unfortunately, probably I'd say 90% of the birds that we get in are actually line entanglements. So they have a lot of fishing line and hooks through their wings, through their mouths. So fishing tackle and any of those kind of pollution that goes with fishing can actually really hurt our wildlife. There's some other ways we impact them. Anyone think? So pollution as well, runoff, so from agricultural runoff, pesticides.
Plastic bags.
Plastic bags, yes, they can take a very long time to break down in our environment, unfortunately. Now we also impact them through the introduction of feral animals. Unknowingly, in the 18th century, a lot of European settlers brought over their pets, so cats and dogs, and also foxes for hunting. Now, they've actually exploded in Australia because there aren't any big land predators that can actually take out those feral pests. So you can imagine when they end up on islands such as Phillip Island. Have any of you been there? Very lucky. That's on my list of places I'd like to visit. You can actually see the little blue penguins come out at dusk in the formation of what's called a plank. So they come out all together in it's like a raft shape. It's called a raft. And that's actually to stop predators. They look bigger, not so small as individuals when they come out. And you can actually see them in the wild. So it's a pretty incredible experience. Lucky for those down here who've been there. So you can imagine if we get foxes, cats or dogs on that kind of island, they can actually obliterate the population. They can really impact their survival. Now one of the main ways we impact them is actually through habitat destruction. So one of our main questions here we get asked is it too warm up here in Queensland for the little blue penguin? Well, I always am surprised when I found out too, but these guys could be found in very large numbers along the Gold Coast here. If any of you are locals out there? No? Is anyone from the Gold Coast? Do you know Burleigh Headlands? No? Well, Burleigh Headlands is a beautiful surfing beach with an incredible rocky headland, and that would have been a perfect habitat for these guys. Penguins used to be found all the way north, as far north as Hervey Bay, so up near Fraser Island. And unfortunately, you guys probably know they're no longer found here on the east coast, southeast Queensland coastline. And that's actually due to habitat destruction. So there are more national parks further south of here, which tend to be in the southern states of Australia. So that's why we see them more down in those areas. It's not actually because of the colder climate. So you can imagine once we take away their land habitat, because we build our own houses to live, they actually have to travel further in order to hunt and feed. And they may not have evolved that ability to travel so far to be able to hunt and feed. But guys, those of you who come to visit today, it's not all doom and gloom. We all make a difference, and I think the fact that you've come to visit us here at Penguin Point, and probably to Seaworld, not just to be entertained, but probably to learn something, also because you're passionate about the wildlife. And I think on behalf of Catherine, Ash and myself, we'd like to say thank you so much for visiting us. And we hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and that through education we can really protect our wildlife. So if you have any questions, guys, please pop your hands up. We'd love to answer them for you. Otherwise, have a very enjoyable afternoon and have a wonderful Christmas, guys. Thank you.